Good day.
Good evening.
How are you doing, Keletso?
I am doing absolutely great.
So let's start it here. Can you tell me how you grew up, where you come from, and your fondest memory?
Interesting. I grew up in Gabs. I'm a Gabs girly.
Okay.
Originally from Serowe,
Okay.
but because of migration and all, we moved to Palape. So usually when somebody asks me, I'm from Palape.
Okay.
So let me just say that.
Awesome.
Yes. And one of my fondest memory is that, what is it though?
Yeah. So it could be because you moved from one place to the other. You are trying to pick the best one.
I'm trying
I
to pick
guess.
the best one because I think because when I was young,
Yeah.
my father had a lot of businesses around. So I think I just remember every weekend I would be somewhere. Either I'm in Francistown, I'm in Palape. So I think
So
the
when,
best is traveling.
yeah. When did you move from Serowe to Palape? How old were you then?
Well, I've never been to Serowe growing up.
Okay.
I think we just knew of the history growing up when I was asking where are we really from originally. But Palape, I think I used to go there a lot when I was young. Yeah.
Okay. So then you came to Gabs.
It was just visiting. I
Okay.
grew up in Gabs.
Oh, okay.
I would just
So
go home.
you visited Palape, maybe Serowe, other Francistown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you started your primary in Gabs.
In Gabs.
Okay. Which one?
Primary, I was at Pakalani English Medium.
Pakalan English Medium.
Yes.
This one lives a soft life. Shout out to your schoolmates from
Yes,
Paks. Yeah.
PPS.
Awesome. All right. So you went to Pakalani Junior.
I went to Tloha Junior High School in Block 5.
Okay.
And then senior school, I went to Naledi in Zola. And then tertiary, I went to Botswana Accountancy College.
Awesome. So I have this thing there. So a lot of times I either recall a face of people I went to school with. Sometimes I recall a name, but when I see the person, they usually don't match because we've all grown up. So I don't know whether I'm bad with names or I'm bad with faces, but I tend to think it's actually faces. But now because we haven't seen each other, I mean my classmates, people I went to school with, we've all grown up. So I have the picture of, you know, when we were like our teen years.
Yes.
And I wonder, how good are you with names, remembering your previous classmates?
Recently, I realized I'm bad with names, good with faces.
Yeah.
I will usually remember this face I went to school with it, either in primary or junior or high school.
Yeah.
But with names, I usually remember after days.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yo, that's that guy,
Yeah.
that's that girl.
And you find that some people I went to school with, they will remember me, name and surname. I recently met a lady at my kids' school. She called me by my name. I was like, hey, what did I do? When I looked, I went to her and said, please, who are you? And she told me her name. And quickly, I saw the picture of her when she was young. I was like, oh, okay. Because some people are really good with their names.
Yeah, very true.
I think sometimes it can come out as if you don't want to associate with people, or you've sort of moved on and they feel like you don't remember them. But I think it's it's nothing to really.
Because some people have gone into fitness journeys.
Yeah.
You know, some people after maybe growing up having kids, they changed or gained weight.
Yeah.
So I think, because when I meet some people, I'm like, ooh, are we the same age?
Yeah, exactly. Because some of us look bigger than how we used to look. So this is your earlier days. Then, what did you always want to do when you grew up?
To be a pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from?
I don't know really. I think I just wanted to be on the air because I always knew I wanted to travel.
Yeah.
So at the back of my mind, I was wondering what's the best way to travel.
Yeah.
And I felt it's being a pilot
Yeah.
because I would be in different countries without actually being there,
Yeah.
but just getting me the exposure.
Yeah.
So I used to think it's one of the most rare careers
Yeah.
that somebody could go to. So it just used to intrigue me.
Yeah.
Doctors, teachers, no.
Yeah.
But pilot, when I say it, I'd light up and I'm like,
Awesome.
imagine me as a pilot.
Yeah, it's some of us were, I think a lot of us will relate to this. Our parents wanted us to be doctors, nurses, and
Yeah, true.
unfortunately we've disappointed a lot of them.
Yeah.
And has that desire faded away anyway?
It did. It did.
To what? Because I know you will get to what you are doing now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this only happens in Botswana, but a lot of us, end up studying one thing and actually do a different work. And we find that we actually like the new thing that we do.
Yeah,
and
we
I don't
settle.
know if it's the same with you.
Yeah, I think it is because kind of when we're young, right, you'd be like, I want to be a pilot.
Yeah.
I would be so interested.
Yeah.
But I think when I grew up, I actually realized I actually just wanted to be on a plane.
Wow.
Okay. So that's how I think maybe that faded away in a way, because I was like, no, I actually just wanted the thrill of being in a plane and traveling from one place to the other.
Yeah.
I think I got that when I traveled for the first time on a plane. And I was like, okay, why am I not envisioning myself driving this plane or flying this plane rather?
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I actually enjoy sitting back and just observing the skies,
Yeah. So you like traveling?
I love traveling.
Where have you been or are planning to go? What's your ultimate destination?
My ultimate destination currently is Italy. I want to go taste the pasta and then go to Switzerland and eat the chocolate.
Oh, interesting.
And then just go to Dubai for coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't even drink coffee.
Yeah.
But it sounds good.
Okay.
So I think for now, I think Italy is the one place I want to visit. I think with the many movies I've watched, I love how the people are, the food mostly, and then just the buildings, and I keep on picturing myself walking down the streets, just taking pictures. Yeah.
Oh,
it's my ultimate destination.
Awesome. I personally like the States. I haven't been there yet, but I think I like it because of what I've seen on TV, and I have a friend who travels frequently. He describes it as a very interesting place, but I haven't gotten that thing that I think it looks like from what we see on television. Cool. Then now you finish your school, then you move on to tertiary. How was it like for you?
It was one of the most confusing stages of life because I remember a moment when I was in high school. There was one teacher that used to say, would look at our marks and say to us, when are you going to do humanities? You can't do this course. And I think that in a way hit my confidence level so much that I was like, don't you think I can aim higher? So when I had the opportunity to go to tertiary, I was like, I want to prove him wrong more than I want to do what I love. So I remember I aimed for a course that I knew my points were not enough for it, but I just wanted to show them that no, but I can do it. So the reason why I was saying it was a confusing time, it was not more of me, what I'm passionate about, but it was more of I wanted to prove a point to people or to my teachers back then, when they thought, this one is just the mere student who can't, go for being a doctor, a lawyer, and stuff like that. So I think I was more on a revenge move, and I'm only realizing it now as I'm speaking about it, because I was like, really, I actually chose the course I was doing because I wanted to prove people wrong. And as I was going, that's when I was like, do I actually love what I'm doing? It wasn't the first instinct. And I realized for even my parents, I even wanted to prove it to my parents that I didn't perform as good as I thought I would, but I know I can still do it. So I think that's why I was saying it was a confusing time. I was caught in between, who do I want to make proud? Myself, my parents, my previous schoolmates and teachers,
Yeah.
you know, and just showing them that, nah, I got it in me.
Yeah. You know, while you're talking about those early years, I don't know if you saw recently that the Minister of is a Basic Education, you know, communicated that there won't be corporal punishment anymore. And these kids are going out and celebrating it in some of the weirdest ways. They're saying things that are really, to me as a parent, painful to hear.
Yeah.
And really disappointing. What do you think of corporal punishment? Because I lived in an age where we were we were beaten.
Proper beaten.
We were properly beaten. And as much as I would like to say it, you know, it shaped who we became. There is teachers who took advantage and actually, you know, abused children instead.
Yeah.
But what is your thinking? What do you think corporal punishment played when you grew up? I know you went to English medium. I don't know if you've come across that at all.
I did when I was in junior school.
Yeah.
I think, like you're saying, it really shaped us in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's both an advantage and a disadvantage. I think it put us in a line in a way and taught us discipline.
Yeah.
We knew when we're not doing something right, it would lead to this.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, I've witnessed some of the teachers who used it in a wrong way, but I wouldn't say it was that bad like that, but it actually shaped us and to who we are, because we grew up our parents telling us of how they were beaten.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother said the teacher used to put the sticks up in the roof, you know, so there's this, I don't know what you call it, it's itchy. So
yes,
fiberglass. So when you remove it and they're beaten with it, you feel the impact. And they would put it a day before.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. So when we grew up, we knew that is a way of discipline. That is a manner of discipline.
Yeah.
But then again, when we look at the times, corporal punishment has, you know, I don't know, what's the word?
Yeah.
You know, we've moved away from it because technology has taken over.
Yeah.
I mean, hoping when you're trying to tell a kid who's into technology that you're gonna beat them for doing something, it doesn't make sense to them.
They speak of rights now.
You know, they speak of rights.
Which is right.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone should have rights, and they should be able to express themselves.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I think it's both an advantage and disadvantage.
Yeah.
It helped our generation, but I don't think it was going to do good for this generation.
So there's probably something different needed to discipline kids nowadays. Do you have an idea what it could be really?
I think it starts with the parents. I mean, because
starts from home.
Yeah, it starts from home because our parents are now doing what we call soft parenting.
Yeah.
It's very weird. I think I'm young, but I never understand this thing where parents would say, "Don't speak to my child like this." Back then, we knew any parent could discipline you anyhow. You know, even when I'm on the road, I would know I can't act anyhow because motsadi oho, it can see you. But nowadays, no, you're only disciplined by your parent because parents feel like they don't want their kids to grow the same way they did. But they miss an important point, I feel. Because now you don't want your kids to grow like you grew, what are you instilling? Are you catching up with the times also? Because you are introducing soft parenting to a fast-paced world. You know, so we're not balancing the two. So now, this time around, you can see children are talking back to their parents, and I'm like, ooh, I cringe all the time.
It's really bad, and I think you are right. We need to look at how we can approach, you know, disciplining kids nowadays. So I just wanna go back. You spoke about the fact that you moved from an English medium to what we call a Tswana medium or government school. Not a lot of kids do well with that. How did you find that shift, and how did people treat you when you went there? I don't want to get into the reasons why that happened, but I just want to talk about how was the shift for you. I think this is what this is 13, 14 years old when you were.
Yeah. I think for me it was not really that much of a bad transition, maybe because of where I come from. My father's sisters used to remind me to say, when you go out there, remember where you come from. You know, so I think I'd look back at how my family is, our lifestyle. So when I got there, it wasn't much of a difference. You know, so I didn't struggle that much. I was hurt because I felt like I'm downgrading in a way. But I think when I got there and I found that there were a lot of kids that were coming from English mediums, I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I'm not the only one. It's not that bad. There were kids from Hillcrest, Shepherd, you know. So I was like, okay, no, but it's not that much of a bad move. So I think for me it wasn't that bad because I felt like, no, but I do belong. There are people who are like me. It's not like my parents didn't like me or didn't love me enough to take me to an English medium again. So it was.
Yeah, but now that you're an adult, which do you think is best, to start off a kid at English medium or to finish off at English? I mean, if you had you were forced to do that shift, do you think English medium is important for the roots primary, or you think it's good for secondary?
I think the roots, because it exposed us to a new world altogether. You know, because English medium gave us an opportunity to try out all the sports, to see what you like, to try out different things, drama, marimba, you know, so I feel like it stimulated us as kids to at least know, oh, okay, no, but I'm interested in this. And then the switch to junior school now was now helping you to blend in with other kids and know that you're not, it's not about privilege, you know. It's not that you're the only person who can afford this. There are other kids who live differently, and it made me appreciate. So I think starting off is a good way. Starting off, and then as a kid grows, let them blend in with other kids. I mean, when I have kids, I think I'll do the same. 1 to 7, English medium, and then from there, go to Tswana. Learn, you know, how other people are. Because English medium tends to make us feel that, for lack of a better word, we are better than other people. Like maybe you are well off than other people. So when you get to government school, you get to appreciate that we come from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds. So it got me to really appreciate. So when I get home and there's no milk, I would be like,
what's
okay, you know. So, but I think I would say starting off. Finishing off, I wouldn't speak much of it because I haven't experienced it. I experienced starting off and then finishing off with government.
Awesome. So now you moved into tertiary. What were you studying there?
I was doing computer systems engineering.
Okay. So then when you finished, you moved into what career?
Oh my goodness. It's weird. When I finished school, I was transcribing.
Okay.
I went to work for a company that was doing digital marketing.
Okay.
And I didn't know nothing about it, but I was intrigued a little bit.
This is after you graduated?
After I graduated.
Why did you get into that? Was it lack of jobs? Was it something you're interested in trying?
It was an opportunity that came forth.
Okay.
And at the time I was home, because at the time I was planning on furthering my studies, but things didn't go as planned. So this person came and said, if you have time, do come and help us transcribe. And I did well in that. And he said, you know what, I have a company, come and help us, and maybe let's see where you'd fit in. At the time I was a brand strategist. You know, I would look at the strategies there and then I would review them. So it was interesting. But I always knew at some point I will get there, but this is not what I want to do at the moment. That's how I switched. And then I went and I was a graduate, I got into a graduate program at a certain company, and then it was not defined as to where you're going to fall. But afterwards, I got into license administration, something
Totally
different
Yeah.
from what I did. From there, my career went south. It went south from what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, there's a little bit of technology there. But it wasn't. I was thinking I was going to do programming, I was going to do networking.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I didn't do those things.
Yeah.
It wasn't hateful, but I was like, it's not like I liked them that much. You know, I was like, I wasn't the best in them.
Yeah.
So I went with the flow, maybe because of the availability, and I also told myself, let me learn. And then as I go on, I will define as to which route I want to take. I thought that was going to be easy for some weird reason, but the defining didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
Because from there I went, and then that's how my career as a salesperson launched. Because I was doing the pre-sales, I was at the back end, I was in customer facing, but then eventually I then started becoming customer facing. Still appreciated it, because I was like, at some point in life, you need a skill like that. One way or the other, you're going to want
the skill of what? Selling.
Selling.
Yeah.
So I was like, one or the other, you're going to want to open your business. So let me take up this opportunity and just learn that skill.
Yeah. So you got into sales. Was it, did your personality fit into sales initially?
Definitely.
You did.
Because I talk a lot.
So you did well.
I did well.
Yeah.
I did well. I think I knew that I needed to learn maybe how to network, you know, how to negotiate, how to start a deal from end and then close a deal.
Yeah.
Because funny how, there was a time I got invited to an event at the American Embassy.
Yeah.
So people there were mingling. You know, some people were drinking beer, they would be talking about the beer, the wine.
Yeah.
And I wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
And I did not have any conversation starter. And I remember that day I was at the back and I was looking at people and I felt left out. I think that's what made me to be passionate about it, to say, no, I need to learn how to do sales. Because I couldn't even speak to wine. I couldn't even speak to beer. I was like, what can I talk about? You know, because people would be like, oh, this is originally from this country. Do you know the year this was?
They'll talk about how old it is.
You know, and I felt so left out. That day I got home, weird enough, I cried.
Interesting.
This
is your first, your job as a salesperson?
As a salesperson. Actually, that was my first job, and I was given a ticket to go to a networking event. And I was
So what was the reason you were crying? You felt like you failed to network?
I failed to network. I didn't even leave
Did you
with
feel
a
like
number.
you missed opportunities? I'm trying to...
I felt like, one, I failed to network. I didn't even leave with a contact. I didn't even try to start a conversation with anybody. And those were prominent people that I believe I could have,
networked and gotten something.
Gotten something from them, learned something from them. But I couldn't. So I think I was frustrated that you couldn't even do one thing at least. Go get yourself a friend. I didn't even leave there with a friend. So I think I got in a shell and I just shut myself out. And I think I was hurt. And then that's when I realized there's a weakness there, or there's something I could actually learn from that time.
So then from there, but how well were you doing in your work? Because you had to talk to clients. I don't know. So there's two kinds of sales. It's not really, they are related. So there's one where you it's hard sales. You approach someone and sell something to them. There's where you manage relationships. So for example, there's products that everyone is looking for. So it's just a matter of managing those clients. They are coming, they're flocking towards the product. But then there's products that you need to initiate and really show people that they need them. Which one do you tend to have experience with?
Both.
Yeah. And which one do you like?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Because I've done hardcore sales, like where you do cold calling, knocking on doors, like where you don't even know the person and you're seeking to have a meeting with the person. And I've also had an opportunity to manage relationships, you know, where now I need to upsell, cross-sell. So I think both of them have an advantage and a disadvantage. The hardcore one, where you're doing cold sales, you face rejections. That's when you realize,
I was going to talk to you about that, because I know it's a big thing when it comes to rejections, right? I mean, a lot of gentlemen go through rejections because most of the ladies we want to be in a relationship with don't want to be in a relationship with. So we've sort of have encountered rejection at one point, and not to say that women don't. How did you deal with the rejection?
At first it was hard.
Dealing with objections,
It was hard. I would ask myself, is there something wrong with me? Am I not fluent in the way I speak? Am I not confident in the products that we sell? But then I got to realize I'm not the problem. I'm not the problem. And I'm not saying the customer is a problem, but I think I had to learn that it's the perks of selling. It's the perks of just meeting customers, that different people. You meet people that are racist. You meet people that are fed up with people that are knocking on doors. You meet people that are actually frustrated from home, you know, or with their bosses or something. And then you get to realize that, understand this person might be going through something, so it's not entirely about you all the time. You know, so I think I would then say to myself, try again. Try again. The day I helped myself with rejection was the day I was like, the way I reject the insurance people. This
they
is
come to you selling policies.
You know, when they come to you selling policies, I was like, this is the consequences of the rejections. So I just got to learn that these are different people. I'll try again. The same person you come back 2 months later, they speak to you in a kind of way, and you're like, oh, aren't you the rude person that I spoke
because
to?
they are now a different person.
They're now a different person. So you just get to appreciate that, you know what, create a container for rejection and know that it's not all about you. The company might be going through retrenchment, the company might be going through salary cuts, you know, and you just came at the wrong time. So I always say, maybe I came at the wrong time, and I moved.
You know, there's a gentleman by the name Jim Rohn. I think he's passed away now. And he's always said this thing about sales, that, you know, sales is about numbers. If you go out there and sell something, one person rejects you, the second, the third, the fifth reject you, and then you find your customer at number 6. You have some kind of ratio to play with. You know that I have to deal with 6 people before I get through to a product. How important is persisting when it comes to sales?
It's quite important. We're taught of the 70-30 rule, that the more customers you speak, the more you're creating a chance for yourself, because you're most probably the first 10 customers won't even buy. But the more you keep knocking, the more you keep going. If I'll still give an example with insurance people. You know, you can reject this person the first, the second, the third time. The fourth time, you're like, you know what, let me listen to you. So I think that's the persistence that is needed in sales. Call, the person says, I'm busy. Call again tomorrow, they say I'm in a meeting. Call again, they say, I'm on leave, or there's audit going on. Call again. Next time this person is going to be, okay, please send your profile. The next time you call, they'll be like, okay, I saw something interesting, let us talk. The next time you come now, you're now talking about
So it's like breaking the stone. Every time you make a move, you're softening this person.
You are softening this person.
Because I think we tend to think that, you know, especially as Botswana, you know, the way that we sell things, it's quite unique to our country, and I like to see how it happens in other African countries. You know, the way we sell is quite unique to this country, and then we tend to, you know, because of that rejection that you get from customers or potential customers, then we say the business doesn't work. I'm talking to especially young, new business owners or small business owners. And you're saying it's really important to overlook that and move on.
It's quite important. My first experience was when it took me 8 months to actually close a customer.
8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
I had to call this customer, visit this customer, send good morning every day.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that taught me the patience. It taught me that it's not always going to be the first time. You know, when you're building a relationship, you are cultivating trust. You are cultivating quite a lot of things that we take for granted. When you come to a person, you expect the person to buy the first time. No, they don't trust you. They don't trust the product.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet, you know. And you need to convince the person that this is what I'm coming with. You know, you can trust me also, the person that I'm coming with this product. So it takes time.
Yeah.
Because remember, you found this person faithful somewhere. You found this person committed somewhere.
Yeah.
So you can't expect this person to just switch instantly. So it takes time.
Yeah.
And I wish the small to medium enterprises could learn this. Because when you face rejection the first time, you're like, kana bana ba jealous, you know, Batswana are jealous. No, you haven't made us believe in your product, even in yourself as the product owner. You know, what is different about you? If you're telling me that you have a makeup brand, I've been using Revlon for long, and you want to say
Why
to
should
me,
I switch
why should I switch?
your brand?
Because when I sweat, my makeup doesn't fall off.
Yeah. What about yours? Are you going to offer me something
Are you going to
different?
do that? So I think we lack that determination, consistency. I always say consistency also. There's a gentleman, that gentleman calls. When you say call on Wednesday, the gentleman will call on Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you're unavailable, he'll be like, when are you available? Till one time I said, you know what? Come through. Let me hear you out.
Yeah.
It's a win for him.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you it took him 3 years for us to sit down and finally talk.
Yeah.
And you are coming the first time and you think, oh, come on. So I think we need to learn that it takes a lot.
Yeah.
It's not easy, even in relationships. It's not easy to trust somebody at the
Just
first
the first
go.
instance,
You know, so I think it's something that we're lacking, because maybe for us, we encounter this when we're now grown. For other countries, my friend went to Ghana for about a year, and she said these people are taught entrepreneurship from a young age.
Yeah.
So when they grow up, they already have thick skin.
Wow.
They understand. So we encounter entrepreneurship after varsity, mostly when we're now in our late 20s. So we now don't have the patience, we're now under pressure. So that is why most people, when they get into business, most Botswana, they are impatient, because you're looking at making a quick buck. And then secondly, we're not coming up with businesses that are making a legacy. We just want a business that can feed us now, but not generations to come. That is why we are impatient. If we understood that it's for generations to come, we would be patient. You'd know it takes a while to build a legacy. So I think you get to learn this in sales, that if I want a lasting relationship with this customer, that I'm going to be able to cross-sell or upsell them, it would take us, me not only saying I'm coming to sell, but also appreciating what are your pain points, you know, showing them that you care, showing them that I'm not here just to get your money, but I'm also interested in making sure that you're also making revenue out of what you'll be buying.
So clients don't like hit and run. They don't want you to sell to them and then disappear. They actually want you to talk to them after that. Also check how the product is doing and all of that. I want us to switch a little bit from sales and talk about looking for a job. You said, well, you didn't say struggled to get a job. You said you found something to do when you were transcribing. But what you're talking about, the skill of selling, persisting, and then managing your clients afterwards. When you were talking, I was thinking about looking for a job. It's one of the things that we see young people struggle with. How important do you think it is to understand selling yourself or branding yourself when you're looking for a job, and the consistency required to do that?
I think I was saying to one of my friends at some point when she was saying she's struggling to find a job. And one question that I asked her is, what are you doing in the meantime?
Yeah.
You know, are you just sitting and are you just dropping your CVs? Or what is it that you're doing? Because it's quite important. Because one thing that I'm seeing when young people are looking for jobs. We don't want to do anything in the meantime. We kind of doing certificates, online things, LinkedIn courses and stuff like that. And I feel that when you can't just use your certificate headlines from varsity and just saying you're looking for a job. Remember, when you're doing that, times are changing, things are changing. You need to remain relevant. So I always say partner it with something. Things are free nowadays. We don't need to pay for things online. There's a lot of things online, but people don't want to spend time reading. They don't want to invest in the education. I think when I got into that route, one mentor of mine said, I've used by far 90,000 investing in my education.
Investing in themselves.
In themselves, from his pocket.
Wow.
And I'm not saying people are privileged enough, all of us, to spend that much. But he was basically saying, I didn't wait for an opportunity to present itself for me to invest. I just started so that when opportunity comes, I am ready. So I wish that when we finish varsity, we find something to keep us busy while we're looking. Don't look while you're just sitting. After dropping a CV, you come home, you sit. No, get online. Internet is free. Reka my time, Momaskomo, it's like 11 to 5 a.m. Sleep at 7. Wake up at 11. Just find something, hello Bore, that you are doing. It will help because our degree is not enough. Unfortunately, it's the reality that we are facing nowadays. So I think as long as we want to be spoon-fed, nothing is going to happen. We're still going to see numbers of unemployment going up.
Wow. I like the word, well, I don't really like it, but it's quite interesting to me, the word spoon-fed. Do you guys hear that? Because I think we I know this is going to hit other people, it's going to ruffle feathers. A lot of things are being done for us as a young Botswana. From primary, in the case of Botswana, the government pays for you from the standard 1, which is the first year, up to the last year in university. And you can call it spoon feeding. And I think that then overlaps in us expecting the same to be done for us after the school. And we get angry when the government is not giving us jobs. When we vote, we are looking for jobs. We want to do business, but if it doesn't work, we move on quickly. Tell me about the job that you were doing when you were doing sales. What was your portfolio like? You're managing. How big was your clientele? If you don't mind sharing.
I was dealing with large corporates. I was dealing with banks. At some point, I was dealing with customers outside the country. So I think I had an opportunity to really be exposed. I haven't dealt so much with small to medium enterprises there and there, but every company that I've worked for, I've always dealt with a large corporate.
So what was the biggest deal you made? How much?
The biggest deal that I made was 5 million.
5 million pula, And what was the smallest? You wouldn't remember the smallest one.
Home connection actually. A home connection. 500 pula.
500 pula.
Yeah.
Cool. And 5 million. And was it commission based?
Yes, it was. And that was one interesting customer. Because when I started with that customer, the first thing they said to me, Keletso, I want a husband. I know. And what she meant by that, she said, I want somebody who's going to take care of me as a customer. Somebody who's going to tell me
Was it
what
a woman?
I need. It was a woman.
Okay, just making sure that I understand. Okay.
It was a woman. And she was like, I want somebody who's going to tell me, keep me up to speed without me having to ask. And I think I've never had anything like that before. And this woman said, I value physical meetings. I don't value virtual meetings.
What were you selling to them? What were they buying from you?
I was selling to them licenses and also internet.
Okay.
Yeah. So when she said that, she looked me straight in the eyes and she said, the only way we're going to work together is if you take good care of me like a husband would.
If you became my husband.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I don't know why.
So, and she meant it. Hey,
Yeah.
you take good care, and I'm telling you, she would give you time, she would give you business.
Yeah.
Because she says, I like people who show they don't only want money. They also care about where the business is going. Understanding, when they're saying they have a strategy meeting, ask them.
Yeah.
So what is your strategy this year?
Yeah.
What are you guys, how are you guys expanding this year?
So that you can help them better.
So that you can help them better. So ever since that time, I've said to myself, I treat every client of mine like they're my wife or my husband.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this woman was onto something, and that it was a mine. So managing a mine is not the easiest. I mean, other corporates, I can tell you it's better. A mine, it's complex. We're dealing with complex systems, there's
and
underground,
when you say systems and
surface.
Usually it's remote as well.
Remote work, a lot was involved.
Yeah.
So it was a quite interesting lesson to say, if we could treat everybody like that, the way you want to be treated when you have a spouse, or when you have how you want your spouse to treat you, maybe things could work well out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move into relationships because you've triggered that route to the conversation.
Yeah.
But before we go there, this was your first job, and then I know something happened. Then you moved into a different job. Can you tell us about that? You were doing well, and then suddenly...
The first job, it was basically because I wanted growth, honestly.
Yeah.
It wasn't because anything happened.
Yeah.
And then I think the second job, by then, I felt that the leader did not like me. But as I grew up, I understand that I had a difficult transitioning from school to the workplace. Most times we don't talk about how difficult that transition is. And I think I struggled so much just trying to find your footing, trying to also understand that now this is real life. You make a mistake, you might be taking down a bank. You make a mistake, you might be costing somebody millions. At school, it was like case studies,
Now it's
pilots.
real life.
Now it's real life. So I think when that reality hit me, I was struggling. And this woman was seeing potential in me at the time, and I felt it was abuse. She was saying, I could see potential in you, but you just couldn't hit the ceiling. You just couldn't break forth. Mind you, I got to learn this years later. At that time, I felt like, this person is abusing me, because at the time, that was how narrow-minded I was in terms of growth, what growth meant. So when I left the job, I left it because I felt like I and this is work abuse. Yes, there were elements of it that we'll talk about it another time, but when you look at another part, when you take away the victim mentality away from yourself and try to understand, but then what was really going on, I got to understand, really some people believe in tough love. They believe in, if I'm not soft with you, you'll realize this is where I want you to go. Got into another job. I didn't last long there. I think I also transitioned because I got a better job. When I got there, I found my footing. That's when I flourished. But eventually...
So you brought what you learned from the previous one.
I brought what I learned from the previous one, and it worked well. Now I was learning. I was expanding myself. I was ballooning up. Now I was like, no. But when somebody says this, I'm expected to do this. It doesn't mean somebody is abusing you. You've signed up for this. You've signed up to deliver. So I learned... Yes, I went through a season where things didn't go well. Me and my employer didn't agree to certain things. I got fired at some point. Lesson learned. I went through pain because of that. But tell you what, months later, I went back to that job. I went back to the same people who fired me. And when I got to the MD, I asked them a question. I said, I'm not here to ask you why. I feel I've gone through the anger, the disappointment, all those emotions you can think of. And I said to him, what can I take away to use in my next job? And he was shook. He kept quiet. He never expected it. Because I was saying, clearly there's something that I didn't see that you guys saw. And I would like to carry something with me. I just don't want to carry the hurt. I don't want to carry the disappointment and the anger with me. But I also at least to take a lesson away to say, you once believed in me. Where did it change? Where did I sleep? Maybe I did not see myself changing at some point. Maybe I did not see my attitude changing at some point. And I think for me, then it was a game changer. Because I kind of said to myself, you can't always play victim and say, I've been wronged. Ask yourself what happened. And that man looked at me. He couldn't answer me, by the way. He said to me, can I set a different meeting with you for us to come and sit down? I think it was the first time also in his life where he encountered somebody coming back and saying, where did I go wrong? Please give me a lesson.
That was an interesting gesture that you did there. How did you come to that decision to go back after being fired? And where did you get the courage? I mean, it's quite uncommon.
I don't know. I think I was so hurt that I felt like I'm missing something. I remember I was
Did you love the job?
I did. I loved the job. I loved the people. I couldn't understand quite a lot. So one day I was driving because I was angry at the person because I felt like I once sat down with this person and I wanted.
He understood
what I wanted. He made promises. So one day I said to myself, we never spoke after the incident, and I wondered why. And I've always just said, I just want to look at him and say to him, you hurt me. But little did I know when I got there, that's not the only thing that I wanted to say. And tell you what, I don't know where I got the courage. I don't. I think I just changed my perspective altogether. I just said, let me change my lens a little bit. Let me just switch the camera. Let me try to look at it from another view. Maybe I could see something different. And it did. I rocked up there on my heels, makeup on point. I was looking good. And the people there were shocked.
Who's this?
They were shocked. I remember people called me after. They were like, I would never go back to a place where the people fired me. And I said to them, maybe you wouldn't, but I wanted to run away with something. Because a lesson that I teach myself is take away everything that you can. Squeeze out everything that you can from a season. So much that no matter how painful it is, make sure that you do not leave just with the pain. At least, please, take a lesson from that. Take something that when after healing, you won't just remain with the pain, but you will say, at least I learned something. That's how we testify, you know. So I think for me, I was like, it was a tough season, but I said, the last thing, I'll just grab it with both hands and I'll squeeze it. Tell you what, it hurt my pride. It did. In so many ways. Because I was like, you hurt my finances in so many ways. I was home for 4 months, couldn't pay for anything, couldn't even buy myself toiletry. I was not prepared. I didn't even have savings. You know, you could have at least warned me. That's the one thing I wanted to say. But I said to myself.
What year was this?
2024.
2024.
Yeah, it was 2024. So I was like, I could have prepared myself. But I then noticed that life does not prepare us for such moments. So I said to myself, because life did not prepare me, it doesn't mean I can't prepare myself for the next season of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is very interesting, Jenny. And now you got a similar job.
Yes.
Are you happy?
I am. I wasn't at first, but I am now. Because I think I got in there still with a little bit of hurt from the previous job. I was wondering, won't the same thing happen to me again? You know, so I got in there. When somebody says something, I'm like, oh my God, it's about to happen.
Yeah.
You know, till one day a friend of mine said, the problem is, ever since you got there with the wrong mentality. You've never seen yourself settled. You've never seen yourself learning something from it. You just got there and just started bringing in things from the past. And I think once I said to myself, let me embrace the season. Even it might not be at the salary rate that I want, but a lesson is more than the money that you'll be getting right now. You know, I could be teaching people decades from now about something that they would use. So I think then that's when I was like, just to relax and learn something. If it's not yours, you'll get a better job, and that's fine. So for now, I'm appreciating the season.
Awesome. I want us to switch a little bit and talk about your spiritual side. Have you always been going to church?
I have. I think my spiritual journey started being a little intense when I was done with my Form 5.
Okay.
I met a circle of friends that at the time were zealous with God, you know, so we were so zealous. We had all the time because the time frame from finishing Form 5 to varsity there was a little bit of a gap. So we used that gap to learn about God, to learn the Bible. So I think that's when we became really rooted. We were learning the God of man. You know, no one of us was serving under any church. We were not serving under any man of God. So we got a chance to really learn the fundamentals, the basics without noise. And ever since that time, I never went back. You know, I've been cruising since, you know.
So when did you get born again?
But I got born again in 2012 by a Kenyan lady at a church in Palape. I remember when I got born again, she said, please remember that a lady from Kenya led you to Christ.
Wow.
But at the time afterwards, because I was visiting, nobody took care of me or made me understand what that meant. I just had that burning sensation because my mother was a church person, so I always went to church because it was custom for us. You know, it was a must. You don't stay home on a Sunday. So when I finished Form 5, that's when I encountered people who now made me understand what it means to be born again.
To have a relationship with
God. To have a relationship with God.
And you, for a while, you've been going to it as well, church.
Yeah.
I want us to talk about, you know, there's a lot of young Christians out there. Some have always known God is there. They grew up in the church. They went to Sunday school. But then, you know, as kids coming from, you know, early ages, you move into teenagehood. Then you move into young adulthood. There is different challenges that we meet. So I want us to talk about the challenges of being a young Christian because of what is going on around. How did you deal with, you know, kids your age looked like they're enjoying life? I don't know if at all you got into that point because I've been there. Dealing with kids that look like they're enjoying life and you look like you are the serious one. How did you deal with that, or did you ever experience that at all?
I did, and it was not easy. At some point, it felt like I'm missing out, you know, on fun. People would say, you're still young. When you get to ages where you're gonna wish you did not miss seasons like this.
Yeah.
So I think I used to, at some point, am I not missing something? You know, parties, you know, going out to drink and things like that.
Yeah.
But then I think maybe I was surrounded by people who kept on reminding me that you're not missing out on anything. Even my parents would keep telling me, no, you know, you'll always find this at every time in your life. You know, you're not missing out on not poverty, but we're hoping ngwana mongwe le mongwe o rala season eo mo botshelong ba gagwe. But I struggled. I really struggled. I don't want to lie. I struggled because I used to question, I would want to fit in, but when I go with this crew, I can feel, that's not me. You know, they say partying is nice, but when I go partying, I don't enjoy it. I can't go to clubs, I can't go to bars, not because maybe I'm a Christian, but as a person, I don't enjoy those settings.
Well, as a personality.
So I think that's when I got to understand it's not about being a Christian, but it's also you as a person. Are you built for that? You know, I didn't grow in a family that was exposed to that. So I was never interested in those things. I only got exposed to that when I went to school or met friends. So I think when I went out and I tried out, I was like, no, I actually didn't miss out anything. And some people would feel like as a Christian, you're being judgmental. You know, as a Christian, but I think for me, the circle I kept. So I think the circle that I kept also, because they were not putting me under any pressure, helped me. You know, some of them were actually not even Christians, that were born again at the time, you know, but they were not into the fast-paced life. So I think I was not in any way pressurized to want to try out a lot of things. So I think it was hard in a sense that I would see it, but it was bearable in a sense that I wasn't exposed that much to it. So I would say it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Yeah.
Do you think life has stages that we should never miss? Because I'm speaking to what you were saying about, you know, there was times you were questioning yourself, what if I miss this and I want to do it later? Do you think there's actually stages that you should never miss and they'll be relevant later in life and you should have done earlier?
I'm torn between in that statement. Sometimes I feel yes, but sometimes I feel, what stages are those? Are they written somewhere? Is it a must that somebody goes through them? Because we're all different, we're built in different ways. So I think that's where I'm saying I'm kind of torn in between, because sometimes I'm like, don't miss the stage of being young. But then again, somebody will ask, what do you mean by being young? You know, are you saying everybody should do this? So I think that's when I'm like, no, I think we should say don't miss a stage of allowing yourself to feel free or being young. I don't even know how I could describe it. But
So no, I mean that's a fair answer, and I would understand why you are you're torn apart between those two options. But tell me, when it comes to enjoying life, enjoying yourself as a young person, why is it that it always looks like the other camp is enjoying themselves versus to the camp, I'll call it the Christian camp? What is it that you think we could do better, or we should do to actually enjoy life as young people?
I think as Christians, firstly, understanding what it means, firstly, to be a Christian. It's having a relationship with God. right? Having a relationship with God, yes, and imitating the lifestyle that he lived.
Yeah.
But also understanding that when you read the Bible, it has a lot of humor in it, and you wonder, can't me in the Bible.
Yeah.
So I think it's us understanding maybe our definition of enjoyment is different. Rona gongwe ya gona le batho that are serious, they'll be like, no, you're supposed to do this. But I mean, guys, let's Samson in the Bible. What was going on there? What was going on there? The times of, you think about those times and you wonder. So I feel we are hard on ourselves. Maybe because our parents back then didn't maybe know they were instilling that in us, but whenever we're trying to preserve us, but now we became rigid about it, and we felt like this is what Christianity is. But it's actually not bondage, it's actually about a relationship that you have with God, your belief, your faith system. And till we understand that, it's not that the other camp is enjoying, it's that the other camp is content with what they're doing. Question is, are you content with where you are? But now, if you are not content, you keep looking at the other side and feel like they're enjoying. But if you understand where you are and why you are there, then you begin to how you're not so rigid, So it's not that we're missing out or they're enjoying more. No, I think they understand where they are.
What is the difficult thing, according to you? What is and this doesn't have to be the most difficult thing, and you don't have to really think hard what it is. What is the most difficult thing as a Christian? Difficult thing to do or to believe or to practice, anything?
I think for me it's mindset as a Christian. Mindset, just having the right mindset. I think that's the one thing personally for me that has been difficult.
Yeah, or it's been difficult for you.
Yeah, for me.
And mindset. So you're talking about how we think about things, how we deal with certain thoughts. Is that what you're talking about?
How we perceive things, what you understand things to be, So I think for me it has always been a challenge. Christianity, what do we mean? How when you're doing this, what does it mean? So I think trying to get away from some of the learnings from being when you're young, what our parents instilled to us, to now getting to really understanding and changing that perspective to what it is. Because I get one how they would use it figuratively, trying to make us understand something. So I think that's why I'm saying mindset, just changing, your perspective, your lens.
Yeah. Keletso, you're also a pastor.
Oh yeah, I am.
Well, what did that mean?
My friend always says, so I think we keep on reminding ourselves that, we are.
Yeah. And your friend is here. Is it the one that is here?
Yes.
Okay, so you're a pastor, a young pastor. How easy is it to walk around with that title as a young pastor, specifically?
I think my Father in the Lord made it easy for us. He made us understand what it means for us being a pastor. Because before he ordained us as pastors, he made us understand that you are ordained as an in-house pastor, right? Because of what you've been doing, not because of something you are not. You have been doing the work of a pastor. We are just confirming it for you. So with most people, they think that you are being ordained as a pastor and you start becoming a pastor then. But
Yeah.
no, he was saying nothing is changing.
That's interesting.
You have been doing that work, just that you haven't been understanding that you're actually doing the pastoral work. And then secondly, what he made us understand was that we wear different hats. I remember he gave a specific example to say, when I get home, my wife needs her husband, my children needs their father, they don't need a pastor. You know, so when I get there, I have to wear those hats. So it made me understand horror. Oh, so you don't necessarily carry that hat around, you know, everywhere. When I'm home, I'm my mother's child. When I'm with my friends, I'm that friend. When I'm at work, I'm a colleague. You know, when I'm with my partner, you know, so you know when to engage that hat, you know, when to wear that hat. So I think it made it easy because now I wasn't so hard on myself.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I guess you're talking about Dr. Litreat. That is his new title. And you know, funny that you are saying that I was recently at your book launch, which is what I want us to talk about, and he really made it sound easy to be an author, right? Was it part of the reasons why you wrote your book?
Honestly, yes, because he's somebody who would really encourage us to write things down. You're given a prophetic word, he'll tell you, write it down. When a message is being preached in church, he'll tell you, write it down. You know, so he's somebody who truly believes in documenting. You know, so one time he'd always say, document. And also he'd say, there is absolutely no way you can sit under a grace of a writer and not become a writer. So I think apart from that, the little things that he taught us to do or to write down, and he'd say, compile those things. You'd realize you actually have a book. We actually think writing a book is sitting down and then going from chapter 1 to 4. No, all those mini things that you keep writing in your journals, when you compile them, you'd actually notice that you're telling a story. So I ran with that. So it's not because it was easy, but I was also saying I want to put into practice what he's been saying. You know, if he's doing it, clearly there's something that I can also learn from it. So one day I wrote something down and I told him, I wrote something down. He said, bring it to me.
Yeah.
He edited it and he said, you actually wrote a book.
Yeah.
That's so how my first book came.
He is a publisher. This is how Flowers in the Valley was born.
Yeah.
There's a compelling story that you share here, mainly the story of grief.
Yeah.
Particularly talking about you losing your father. Such a painful story. I don't think any of us are ever prepared for that time.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to attend your launch. It was beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank
and
you.
I got inspired to become an author. I've been saying it then. I got inspired to be a lot of things, to be an MC, to be an author, you know, to sing, because there was people who are singing there. So I want us to talk a little bit about Flowers in the Valley. Why did you decide? I know we talk about the fact that, you know, Bishop inspired you to do it. What inspired you to write the book?
Flowers in the Valley, what inspired me was to have a voice. Because there was a point in my life where I struggled to express to the people around me how I truly felt about the grief. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. I went through seasons that they didn't know about and I couldn't share it with them. So I think it was an opportunity to give myself and somebody out there a platform to speak about some of the things that they've been going through behind closed doors and nobody got to know about, and to say it might be a lesson to someone out there. And I think I also wanted to stretch myself in terms of healing. Why am I saying stretch myself in terms of healing? Because I knew when I tell my story, somebody's going to say, this is how I dealt with it. And it's going to heal the little parts that I thought maybe they would never get healed or I didn't even know about. So for me, Flowers in the Valley was a platform to give someone a voice and to give myself also a voice that I feel got silenced the day I lost my father.
Yeah, and the title is quite interesting. Can you give us, I know, I read the book and I understand really what you meant by Flowers in the Valley. Can you just share with us briefly why the title, what does it mean, Flowers in the Valley?
It felt like I was in a dark season of my life and I was not seeing any light, but eventually as we went forth, I could start seeing a flower blooming out. And I remember when you look at flowers that grow by the wayside or in the valley, they're always the prettiest flowers. You'd think maybe the water would take them out or anything, but they grow so well. And I think that's how I realized that, I was going through a tough time, but something beautiful came out of that season. It might have been painful to lose a parent, but guess what? I birthed a book out of that season. So for me, it was like a flower that grew when nobody thought it would grow.
And one of the things that you spoke about, and I think it was also echoed during the launch, was the fact that one of the reasons why grief can take long is not accepting.
Yeah.
And it was beautifully coined, and I just wanted you to speak a little bit to really moving on, although it's not always completely moving on. How important is it to move on?
I think funny how somebody asked me in an interview recently to say, have you healed? And I said to them, no, I believe I'm in a stage of acceptance. What do I mean by acceptance? I'm in a stage where I got to a point where I said, it has happened. So I think it helped me in a sense that not moving on, but to understand that it happens to anybody. It happens, it's a reality of life that will happen to all of us. And it's just for me to say, it just happened to me maybe sooner than other people, later than other people, but it's for me to just say, it's okay. You're not the only one. I know it always hurts when somebody says to you, you're not the only one who's going through that, but it's true. I'm not the only one who has lost a parent before, So I think for me, it was the moving on I needed. Moving on from that season. I'm not saying you're not going to break down, you're not going to remember, you're not going to have triggers, but just reaching that season of saying, grief can happen to anyone, or loss can happen to anyone.
And as I was saying, grieving is one thing, and it really depends on who you're grieving. I can't imagine losing a father, but I think we live in a society where there's fathers and then there's absent fathers.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about, when we started having this conversation, you spoke about the fact that your father was really into business.
Yeah.
And as a father figure, he has, I'm sure, sown some seeds into you becoming this great salesperson that you are. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of a father figure from your perspective? You can speak to both spiritually, parenting. How important do you think a father is?
Ooh, it's really important. In a sense that I think for me, maybe from my experience, I got to realize these two people play different roles, a mother and a father.
Yeah.
They play different roles. A father is instilling in me or making me understand provision, making me understand leadership, making me understand being the head. And being the head, I'm not only saying in the family. How are you going to have a position of leadership at work? You're going to have a position of leadership elsewhere in your life. And I think him being in my life was a typical example of how it is to be a leader. You know, it was like a free lesson of becoming a leader in life. And I think every one of us needs that at some point in their life. Because when my mother says there's nothing, how does my father react? Same way, when I'm a leader and somebody says, in our department we need this, how am I going to react? So the role that he played was he somehow gave me a tutorial of leadership. He gave me a tutorial of what it means to be able to give back, to be able to have people depend on you, how it is, you know, to be able how to nurture mainly, not in a caring or nursing way like a mother. So I think for me that was a lesson, and I feel like I wish everybody got a chance to experience this, because that's why I don't know how true it is when you meet somebody who maybe didn't have a father figure. You know what, they are not weak, but they are soft rather. You know what, this person is soft. They needed a father figure. So I don't know, maybe studies will show that, but just from what people keep on saying. So I feel like having a father helps you appreciate that aspect of leadership in life.
Great.
Yeah.
Flowers in the Valley. Can you just briefly talk to someone who wants to write?
I'll still say
someone who wants to be an author. Because you said a lot of things that, you know, as we were saying them, I was thinking. Earlier on, we spoke about, you know, young people when they're looking for a job.
Yeah.
They don't know that they already have a book that they could be selling. Yeah. One of the things that I like that, you know, your publisher mentioned is the fact that a book will speak for you. When you're called for a talk, you don't have to say much. The book has already made the work for you.
Yeah.
So talk to someone who wants to be an author. And really, who is it that can be an author? Is it just for anyone, or there's a certain talent that you should have to become an author?
I'll give the lesson I was given. Anyone can be an author. Just take your pen and write. Do not worry about the grammar. Do not worry about how you're going to place your English. The people who have been taught for that is why they're editors. That is why they're publishers. Your part is to write. Don't do other people's job. You know, then they won't have anything to do. So what I would say to somebody is take your pen and write. Even if I say take a paper and write, or take your phone and type. You know, it doesn't have to be, there's no angel or there's no bed that's gonna come up on you and then start writing. No, it starts with you just journaling. I feel like if you're able to journal, you're able to write. If you have a journal, then you're a writer. If I could say, compile every story that you've written or every emotion that you've put down in your journal, that's a book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Keletso Sharon Maswabi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having this great conversation with me. We're grateful.
Oh, I truly appreciate. And I think you don't know, I've long wanted to talk to you. You know that. Like since 2013.
Really, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I have a feeling you'll come back again.
Oh,
and there's a lot that we need to talk about. There was a lot of learnings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.